Welcome to Unload and Show Clear, powered by Match Shark. Listener ready? Stand by.
Welcome to another episode of Unload and Show Clear, a podcast about the men and women who compete in IDPA matches around the world. I'm your host, Lloyd Bailey. IDPA, International Defensive Pistol Association, was formed out of the concealed carry movement back in the 1990s. It's based on the founders' desire for a sport based on real-world defensive skills and not just fancy equipment. IDPA matches are a series of stages that are based on realistic defensive scenarios, and they'll test the shooter's skills in gun handling, accuracy, speed, and problem solving. Men and women from around the world compete every week in IDPA matches, and you're going to meet one of those great people today. And for 2020, Unload and Show Clear is powered by Match Shark. If you watch videos from last year's IDPA World Championship 2019, you will see that shooters had to deal with the discomfort of shooting in sometimes heavy rain. If you were at that match, or if you were with me at the 2019 Arkansas State match, you know how much fun it can be to shoot in the rain, especially heavy rain. Why do I say that? Well, pasting and scoring targets is not fun at all. Not only are you and your equipment soaked, not only are you cold and wet and damp and uncomfortable, but pasting and scoring targets makes your day even that much more fun. You can't see the scoring zones. The pasters and the tape won't stick to the targets. The targets ultimately will disintegrate because they get waterlogged and have to be changed more frequently. Well, contrast that Arkansas State match to the World Championship and compare the targets. There was a big difference. The difference was you had baggies on the Arkansas targets and you had Match Shark covering the World Championship targets. Match Shark's patent-pending target shields keep targets dry even in heavy rain. They're reusable too, so the cost of those shields is quickly recovered by simply patching and reusing them over and over and over again, and it makes your staff happier because setup and scoring and teardown are so much easier. It makes your shooters happier because they can see the targets and they don't have to deal with plastic bags. They're designed and manufactured right here in the United States. They are owned and operated by two IDPA shooters themselves, people experienced in match direction and setup. They understand the challenges that match staff face when dealing with wet weather. So let them help you run your matches faster and smarter and make it a better experience for your safety officers and your shooters. Visit matchshark.com today and get everything you need to be prepared for your next rainy day match. That's matchshark.com. Visit them today, matchshark.com. Okay, time to get to the show, time to meet today's special guest. Our special guest today is Brandon Jackson. I'm so excited to finally get him on the show. Brandon from Lexington, Kentucky, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Lloyd. It's nice to be here.
So for those who don't know you, tell us a little about yourself and what you do for a living there in Lexington.
Well, for the past 15 years, I've been a mailman here in Lexington. Before that, I had a smattering of different jobs. I worked in the retail industry for a long time, and also had my own lawn care business for about 13 years. So I've done a little bit of everything.
Holy cow. 15 years delivering the mail.
It is correct.
Any fun interactions with dogs?
Constantly. All the time. All the time. Absolutely. For the most part, I stop and play with dogs, love them to death, and we have a great time. I carry some dog treats with me. But there have been a few occasions where I've been a little scared. I got pinned to a porch once by, I don't know what breed, but a very large dog with big, sharp teeth that frightened me quite a bit.
Yikes.
Yeah. Luckily, I just waited him out. He got distracted and walked away, and I was able to slip back to my vehicle as quick as possible.
You ceased to be fun when you stopped moving, I guess.
Yes, absolutely. I was waiting for the next squirrel to run across the yard.
Right. So, growing up, are you originally from Kentucky?
Yeah, I'm originally from a small town called Corbin, Kentucky. It's actually pretty world famous. It's the home of Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Really?
Some of my grandparents actually knew Harlan Sanders.
Interesting. Very cool.
Yeah. It's also home to, I believe it's now the only moon bow in existence. We have Cumberland Falls, just outside of Corbin proper. And I can't explain exactly why it happens. I should know this, but on a full moon, if there's a clear sky, there's actually a rainbow created by the moon in the middle of the night. You have to show up at like 1 a.m. to see it.
Interesting.
People travel from all over the world to come check it out. Yeah, it's kind of neat.
So this is, I would assume, kind of rural Kentucky. Where did the interest in guns come from? Were you raised around them? Were you hunting as a kid, or was this something that came along later?
Well, actually, my grandfather was a Pacific Theater veteran in World War II, and he had a bunch of guns, from what I understand, when I was a little boy. I didn't experience shooting a lot with him, but as I got a little older and was old enough to actually go out and participate, he had sold a lot of them, but he still had a few laying around, and my dad had a few, so we shot a little bit. But I was in no way was I into guns, then like I am now. It took quite a few years, actually. Oh my gosh, it was about 10 years ago, I'd say. I'm estimating, of course. My father, who already owned a furniture store, branched out and opened a outdoors store. He sold some hunting supplies, fishing supplies. He was a lawnmower dealer, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he got his FFL license. And when doing so, obviously, I was infatuated. Oh, let me go check out all the guns, and I'd work them over and play with them. And I'd always had an interest, but never really had a lot of experience with them. And then a couple years into the business, he actually gifted me my first two handguns, a little tiny pocket 22. I think it was a Jennings.
Oh, my
and then
goodness.
a Bursa. Yeah. And then a Bursa Thunder 380. And taking that 380 out and practicing with it and acting like I was Rambo with it, I thought I was something. It was a lot of fun, and that pretty much got me into it. I started looking for places to train and to learn how to shoot and how to be proficient. And as doing such, I ran into this sport named IDPA.
How did that happen? How were you introduced to it?
Well, I started doing a little bit of searching online, just, where could I go locally to learn, how to holster and unholster safely, just how to be proficient with a handgun. And during my searches, I kept seeing these different competition sports popping up here and there.
Mm-hmm.
So I just searched locally, where in Lexington can I shoot IDPA? And sure enough, it popped up to S&D Indoor Range in Nicholasville, Kentucky, which is a city just outside of Lexington. And I've been shooting at that range once a week ever since. And that's been a little over 3 years.
So you're relatively new to this.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Well,
I started in the fall of 2016.
Wow. So you've jumped in with both feet then, because you are master in ESP, SSP, CCP, and bug of all things, and an expert in CDP and carry optics already. So
yes.
What do you remember of that first match at the indoor range?
Oh, I'd say my first memory would be trembling. It was pretty intimidating. I thought I would be okay. And of course I was, and I had a lot of great mentorship. I think everyone in the IDPA world knows who Aaron Brolse is. He actually shoots at my local range. I was fortunate enough just to happen to be here where he is. Him and Bob Frank were both there to mentor me and teach me how to handle things safely. And of course I didn't do very well. I was scared to death. But they taught me through it and have been my mentors ever since. They've been fantastic.
How long after Well, let me ask you this. I mean, I just alluded to the fact that you're already a master in those four divisions, an expert in two others. What once you got to that, once you got through that match and realized how much fun it was, what changed for you? Did you, how did you get from the guy trembling at the waiting for the beep to the guy who's master class in all these divisions?
I would say more than anything, repetition, just pulling triggers, just going back every week after week, shooting, learning the sport, and getting great advice from great people, and just constantly doing it. Anytime a shooter asks me anything about, the difficulties they're having in their shooting, my first answer is, well, how many rounds have you shot? You need to shoot 5,000 more. It's just about repetition. Go out there and do it more and more and more. And you relax, you calm down, you start to understand the sport, you learn the rules, and then, you don't get nearly as nervous, once you've put rounds down range.
Right. How long do you think it took to figure out the mental part of it? Because I can go back and look at my early videos, and it's like dumpster fire watching me try to figure out stages. What, and I think for new shooters, even if they're really good shooters, the mental part of it is maybe the toughest thing to kind of figure out. How long was it for you, and when did the light bulb finally go off?
I'll let you know when it does. I'm still dealing with it. I mean that's the biggest part of the game, is the mental game. When to push, when not to, when to be more conservative. Stage planning, of course. A lot of things go into the sport. If you want to shoot on the highest levels, then you have to have it all down, and then the mental game kicks in. It's like a whole different level. Case in point, just this year, I think it was at the Indiana State match, I was squatted with another podcast guest, Brad Hubner. I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name.
Hebner, okay.
We were at the very first stage, and it was a risk-reward type stage. And I was telling Brad, I'm going for it. I'm going to take the risk, and I'm going to burn this stage down. And he told me, of course, he's a more experienced shooter than I. He told me, he was like, man, it's your first stage of the day. I don't know if you should do that. Oh, I got this, Brad. Check this out. And of course, I think that stage cost me 20 points down. And for the rest of the day, I was maybe another combined 7 or 8 points down for the rest of the day. But that one stage was 20 points. I learned a very valuable lesson that morning. So I'm still struggling with the mental game, but it is getting better. It's all about just experiences. You learn from the things that you mess up.
How long after that first shaky match at the indoor range, how long after that before you decided I'm going to try a sanction match?
That's a good question. My first ever sanction match was Holiday Havoc 2017. So it was the fall of 17. So I shot locally for about a year before I stepped out and tried a big match, which I'm glad that I did. Of course, I had improved a lot during that time over that first year. So yeah, it was Holiday Havoc 2016.
Where were you classification wise?
I'm sorry, 2017.
Right.
My apologies.
No problem. Where were you classification wise when you signed up for that match?
If I remember correctly, and a lot of times I don't, I think my very first classification was sharpshooter, and I think I was expert before I went to the Holiday Havoc.
Okay. So What do you remember of that day and your performance and how it differed from the weekly indoor match?
You know what? I actually surprised myself. I knew that I could compete on a local level. I had gotten a whole lot better. And now, today more so than ever, I definitely improved my skills. And I really shocked myself. I forget exactly where in the placement that I came in. I don't know what place I was, but I was better than I expected. And actually, that's what fueled me for the next season. That's when I really wanted to shoot as many majors as I could in 2018, because I saw that I did do better than I thought. And it's funny because at the time, I actually didn't think that. And this is true even to this day. During a match, my friends will even tell you, they pick on me about it. During the match, when people ask me, how are you shooting? It's always, oh, I shouldn't have done this and I shouldn't have done that. And I wasted a second and a half over here. I'm always disappointed in myself. But then when the scores come out, it seems that I do pretty well.
Is that a
surprise myself?
Is that sort of a mental defense against disappointment? Where if you do end up scoring badly, you're like, "Yep, I knew it." But then when you do score well, you're like, "Hey, you're surprised and pleasantly so."
No, I don't think that. I think more than anything, I strive for perfection. I see scores from other major matches, and you can obviously if I don't shoot that match, I can't compare myself to it, but I can compare the top 2 or 3 guys to the rest of the field, and it's impressive to see how few points they were down, how fast they were overall. So personally, I'm striving to be as fast as possible while still getting great hits. So I don't think it's a defense mechanism. It's honestly disappointment in myself. My perfect match is a 0 down for the day and 0 wasted time. And if I don't achieve that, then I've disappointed myself. I realize that that's not always obtainable, obviously, but that's what I strive for.
Were you really competitive as a kid? Did you play sports as a kid? And where does that
Absolutely,
sort of sense
yeah.
of striving for excellence, where does that come from, and where was that ingrained?
Good question. I really don't know. I did play sports as a kid. I never played on any collegiate level or anything, but I played baseball all my life. And then as soon as I graduated high school, within a year or two, I had picked up on a competitive softball league and played that for many years up until it was just a couple of years before I started IDPA. I had a 4-wheeler accident and dislocated my throwing arm. So I kind of,
there went the
softball
softball career.
Socket. So, yeah, well, no, I can still go back. Me and my son, we throw the ball around, and I can still throw it okay. But I definitely had to take some time off, and I just never got back into it. Gotcha. So about 2 years and about 30 pounds after softball, I found IDPA, and I've been obsessed with that ever since.
Now we've run across each other in a number of matches over the past year and a half or so. Talk about one that stands out in your mind.
Well, I think I would have to talk about the last match you and I were both at together, Holiday Havoc 2019.
Yep.
And the reason that one is significant to me is, well, as I stated before, whenever I get finished with the match, I'm always upset with myself for not doing as well as I thought. But it turns out that day, what I did was good enough. That was my first high overall win. So that one I was really excited about. I think I shot 9 majors last year, and I was never out of the top 10, but I could never get that top spot. I was second 2 or 3 times. I was third, I think, twice. There was always one little thing that happened that I felt like cost me the match. And so that was the first time I was able to put it all together. And, you hear about, professional baseball or basketball players, being in the zone.
Right.
That's kind of how I felt during that match. It was kind of effortless. I wasn't really thinking about anything specifically. I was just thinking, shoot as clean as you can, shoot as few points, down as you possibly can, and just go, at a good speed where you're not pushing so hard that you're throwing magazines all over the place when you're trying to reload. And it worked in my favor. It was pretty exciting.
Did it really? did it feel different looking back on it, or do you remember at the time as you were going through it thinking, wow, this is really different?
No, you're right. It is looking back.
Okay.
It's in hindsight. During the match, of course,
You
I
were
was
still
beating myself up after each stage. Yeah. I can't believe I went one down on that stage. I can't believe it. Yeah, I was definitely beating myself up. And, of course, when it was finished, I was refreshing practice score just as fast as my little finger could hit the button, because I knew I was in contention. I knew I would be in the top 3 or 4. But it really surprised me. And I was waiting on a couple people's scores to be posted, specifically Kevin. Kevin Farrar. He's always, him and I kind of battle back and forth in carry optics. What a fantastic shooter he is.
Yep.
So I kept refreshing, and I was able to just edge him out just a little bit. So I was tickled to death with that match.
Yep, that was a fun match. You were the first familiar face that I ran across when I showed up at the range on match day.
I saw that in your YouTube vlog. Yeah, you caught me right as I was getting ready to go shoot. I apologize, I was a little short with you.
No.
But you started, hanging out and asking me questions, and I was trying my best to get in game mode.
You were a little taken aback by my offer of cat crap, so
I didn't know what to say. I was still thinking of, down zeros and where to hit my reload, and you kept talking about cat crap.
That was a fun match. They had some really interesting and inventive stages. Looking back at the 9 majors that you shot last year or over the course of your career now, is there a particular match or a particular stage that stands out that you think, wow, that was a lot of fun, that was really inventive, something that stands out to you?
There's not a particular stage. I like all kinds of different types of stages, but I would say that, and I hate to keep harping on the same match, but Holiday has got to be my favorite. It was the first one I ever shot, and then I did really well in it the next year in 2018, and then this past year I won the thing. So obviously I'm a little biased towards that match,
right?
But I have shot a bunch of great ones. There's been a whole lot of fun matches.
How much now? You said you went to 9 this past year. How widely are you traveling now?
Let's see. Actually, I keep it pretty close. Being a federal employee, being a mailman, I don't have a lot of extra time, and I can't go very far away from home.
Right.
Let's see. I guess the furthest south I went was the World Shoot.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did go up into Michigan once last year. Went to the Mississippi Showdown. Well, that's just outside of Memphis.
Right.
So not very far, 5-hour drive from Lexington, maybe.
Did you shoot the 3 matches at Memphis?
I did. Yeah, I did actually. And I only included that as one. So technically I shot 11 matches last year. If you break that up into 3 separate matches.
That was a really cool idea by Will and Chris Schmid, our awesome sponsors, by the way. How was that match? I wasn't able to attend. Will had convinced me to do something that ultimately would have been, I think, incredibly stupid, which was to drive up and shoot 2 on Thursday, 1 on Friday, drive back to Texas, and then shoot Texas State on the weekend.
Goodness. That's a lot.
At 50, that probably would not have been a good idea.
Well, I'm working on my schedule for next year, and I've got one weekend where I'm going to shoot a USPSA on Saturday and then travel 6 hours and shoot an IDPA on Sunday.
Oh, my goodness.
So I feel you. But yeah, that match specifically, the Mississippi Showdown, man, it was a blast. It was a lot of fun. It was very interesting the way they had it split up into 3 separate matches. I was a little disappointed in my carry optics performance. I was still in the top. I think I was in the top 10 in all 3. But carry optics is kind of my bread and butter. That's what I'm best at. Mm-hmm. And I think I was like 6th, 7th, 8th, somewhere in there. But the stages were super fun. especially the fast ones. I like shooting fast. And, they made minute changes for the bug and PCC match, and that was a little interesting. They changed a couple things around. And in bug, I did very well in bug. I came in second place to the distinguished master, King Drummond.
King Drummond, oh my goodness.
He absolutely destroyed that match. I was second place to him, and then there was a bunch of people lined up under me, but he was probably 15 or 20 seconds. I mean, he just blew the field away. That guy is an unbelievable backup gun shooter.
As we kind of wind things down here, what is it, you jumped right into this. You got into this fairly late compared to those who, starting out in their teens or shooting a lot as a kid. You really jumped into this, like you say, the last 3 years, late 2016, and have already mastered 4 divisions and are close to doing it in 2 more. What is it that motivates you to do this? What is it you love about this so much that keeps you doing it? What is it about IDPA that's special?
Well, that's a twofold question to me. Number one, and I know it's the cliche answer, is the people. I've built some great relationships with people that I would have never have met, several states away, the people from all over the country that I've built relationships with, and they're just the salt of the earth kind of people, just fantastic environment that we're in when we go to shoot these different matches. And secondly, what motivates me, and also that I love about the sport, is the competition. I've always been a person that liked to be good at whatever it is that I do, whether it's being the best, fastest, most accurate mailman to being the best, most accurate shooter. I've always taken pride in different accomplishments that I've had in my life and different goals that I've set for myself. And I don't know, it's kind of confusing because I'm super hard on myself, and I feel like I'm always disappointing myself because I set such high goals and high standards for myself. But in the end, it turns out that, typically because I push so hard at those goals, that things turn out pretty well. Speaking competition specific, I've ended up really surprising myself. I've done a whole lot better in this sport than I ever thought that I would. And I hope that I grow and even go further than I have already.
Awesome. All right, man. Well, thank you so much for finally accepting the invitation. I've been looking. I always look forward to seeing you on the range, and I'm so glad that you finally decided to take a chance and come on the show. And I look forward to seeing you again on the range in 2020.
Well, I apologize for ducking you for so long. I could only get away with it for so many months, but absolutely. I appreciate you having me on the podcast, and even more so, I appreciate what you do for us as a community. Getting the word out about this sport and the people that are involved with it is fantastic. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to all those vlogs you've been putting up on YouTube.
I've got more to come, and I'm sure your smiling face will show up in more of them this year. Thanks again for doing this, and we'll see you on the range.
Absolutely. Thank you, Lloyd.
Okay, folks, that's all the time we've got for today. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you to our special guest today for coming on the show. And thank you to our awesome sponsor, Match Shark, who's making 2020 possible. If you see them at your next match, by the way, stop by and tell them that you appreciate their support for the show, and check out their website, matchshark.com, for all of their awesome products. Take a moment, if you would, to check out our website if you haven't already. Unloadpodcast.com is the address. We've got all of our interviews posted there, of course. Join our Facebook group if you'd like to interact with other fans and get the latest updates. Check out our YouTube channel as well, unloadpodcast.com/YouTube. We've got some really cool videos there. And check out Apple Podcasts or iTunes and subscribe to the show. Maybe leave us a review while you're at it. We would really appreciate that. And if you would like to show your support in a more personal way, consider becoming a patron for just $1 a month at patreon.com/unload. I'll send you a sticker and my undying gratitude for helping to make all of this possible. If you or someone you know would make an interesting guest for a future episode, contact me at lloyd@unloadpodcast.com, or just go to the website, click on the Contact Us button in the menu, and send us a message. Tune in again next Thursday for another episode of Unload and Show Clear, powered by Matt Shark. We are a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. Be sure to check out all of the pro-gun, pro-freedom podcasts at selfdefenseradio.net.